might be the swipe of the white owl, or the great pale wings of a luna moth spreading and folding like a medieval habit. But it came to me one night that there were people like none I had ever seen, in strange archaic cap and dress. I used to think I could see the white of their bonnets, and at times a hand in the act of grasping, illuminated by the moon and stars, or the light from a passing car. Morning found the field bright, abundant with 1,000 wildflowers we often gathered and wove into crowns. But the centerpiece was the old black barn inhabited by bats. It has long since burned, but at that time it stood like a battered top hat that only the courageous or forlorn might wear. I race through the grass. Sometimes I meet up with my friends, and sometimes I just plop deep within it and stare up at the sky. It seemed like all of creation was mapped out above, and I was drawn into the laughter of the other children. I was drawn from it, drawn into a stillness I aspired to master. Here, one could hear a seed form, or the soul fold like a handkerchief. I believed they were there, the people. I could hear them now and then, murmuring and whistling as if behind a wall of cotton. I could hear them, but I could never make out the language they were speaking, nor the melodies they were weaving. When I returned, everything was as it was. I'd run and join the others, and we'd play statues and Red Rover. Or if we were feeling brave, venture into the barn and pitch sticks at the bats. Later, crossing the road home, I never failed to bow my head as we passed the bush. And the image of the wool gatherers in that sleepy field drew me to sleep as well, and I wandered among them through thistle and thorn, with no task more exceptional than to rescue a fleeting thought as a tuft of wool from the comb of the wind. Can I offer you this bell, the whisper merchant? It is extremely valuable. A museum piece, priceless. No thank you, I answer. Do not wish to own. But it is a wonderful bell, a ceremonial piece, a fine bell. My head is a bell, I murmur between bandaged fingers, already asleep. Ghosts of Eiler popped and pitted. Ghosts of Eiler popped and pitted. Gave me a kick, sound like fingers poking game little holes in a spread of light. Poking game little holes in a spread of tight net. Dictionaries littering the floor, Spanish, Arabic, Omis inks, sheets of vellum, ESP discs, sacred sticks, spangled cloth, poems of a millionaire, poet debris. Crazy booty I often inventoried in the dead of night. Poet debris. The document curled in the heavy air. A parchment repro of the Declaration, acquired on a third-grade expedition to the Franklin Institute, 1955. It ranked high in my treasure. The audacious grace of the script intrigued me, and I spent hours as a child copying it out. The image of the word, the signatures, the long paper scrolls, the image of the word. I imagined that in mastering each bold, significant hand, I would capture some of the spirit of the author, of independence itself. Now here, spurred by Eiler, I repeated my grave little game. I had no aptitude for languages, so I learned instead to copy out the image of a language. The image of a language, of calligraphy scattered about like wires of the world. I got up just as a new side dropped. Patty Waters, black as the color. Some said she was dead. Some said she told nothing. Some said she sold tickets in a B-movie theater. In a way, in any event, in any way, in any event, she could sing. Voice like smoke. The pot was boiling over. I got up and strained a fistful of mint and poured the liquid in a favorite cup. It resembled an inverted fez, having no handles, a glowing milky glaze swimming with fish and phoenix. It had held in its time the drink of transport for a dervish, an Englishman. And now myself, I filled it again and returned to my station. The mind of a child is like a kiss on the forehead, open and disinterested. It turns as the ballerina turns atop a party cake with frosted tears, poisonous and sweet. The child, mystified by commonplace, moves effortlessly into the strange until the nakedness frightens, confounds, and he sits and seeks a bit of cover, order. He glimpses, he gleans, piecing together a crazy quilt of truths, wild and woolly ones, hardly bordering on truth at all. The cruel intensity of this process can produce a thing of beauty, but oftentimes just a test in the shimmering from which to rest and wriggle, a spine of rope sliding in some vain arena, more remote and dazzling than ever. All around are walls, and the mind, in vague pirouette, snatches bits of code, Flemish, hieroglyph, embedded in the brick, chiseled in the brick, exclamations, questions of origin, scope, When young, overcome with a sense of being from somewhere else, we peer, we probe inside and pull out alien, Indian. We come upon an open plain, a plain of gold, or come most often upon a cloud, a race of cloud dwellers. These are our young thoughts. Eventually, we work it out. We reorganize in ourselves. We recognize in ourselves our mother's hand, our father's limb, but the mind, that is something else again. Of this, one can never be sure, for it turns as the wild dog turns, as the tumbleweed, the wire rim. This aspect of our being is transmutable, and perhaps that's where we find the true kink in the machine. Mind is a picture, and there in the corner is the hint of a spiral. Perhaps it is a virus. Perhaps it is a spirit tattoo. With arms outstretched, with eyes closed tight, a bright nausea turns all around, stirring hearts, wistful sprouts, turning themselves inside out. How wide the world is, how high, and the stuff of the mind, charged, puffs and scatters like seed and fluff. For such is the teeth of the lion, that it bears and bursts into wishes, a wish for a certain thing, or just the wish to know. Blowing upon it, candles, a star, what does one desire? A partner, a freewheeling moon, or perhaps to hear again, as one heard as a child, a music, curious, optimistic, as plain as and elusive as the call of the reed penetrating a summer night, expanding squares of laughter and delight, laughter and delight, everyone dancing, just dancing, and out there one would be drawn like the moth into the flame, like the moth and the firefly into a distorted calm. This leads to the hall, strung with colored lights, fading as one would venture into the high grass, lured by another call, such a pretty wailing, like a violin in bloom. The music of the wool gatherers performing their tasks, bending, extending, shaking out into the air, gathering what needs to be gathered, the discarded, the adored, bits of human spirit that somehow got away, got caught up in an apron, plucked by a gloved hand. From all this, the cloud is formed, and so the sky resembles the human opera, the turbulent promenade. It attracts the lazy eye. It appeases the weary in a play of movements heralding the simple, the wool gatherers performing their task without wage or contract, with singular collective grace. It is one of those inexplicable things, for it is a service one just enters without expectation or design, where one, lost in thought, may feel a tap upon the shoulder and find himself far flung in a swirl of dust, among an abrupt and brought out into a sudden halt, with such a burden lifted, such a glory in the hand, and racing anticipation, as if one had an appointment, a do-si-do, with the setting sun. Sorry. The air was carnival, responsive. I opened the screen door and stepped out. I could feel the grass crackle. I could feel life, a burning coal tossed on a valentine of hay. I covered my head. I would have gladly covered my arms, face. I stood there and watched the children at play, and something in the atmosphere, the filtered light, the scent of things, carried me back. How happy we are as children, how the light is dimmed by the wake of reason. We wander through life, a setting without a stone, until one day we take a turn, and there it lies on the ground before us, a drop of faceted blood, more real than a ghost, glowing. If we stir, it may disappear. If we fail to act, nothing will be reclaimed. There is a way to this little riddle. There is a way in, to utter one's own prayer. In what manner, it doesn't matter. For when it is over, the person shall possess the only jewel worth keeping, the only grain worth giving away. A small hand offered me a dandelion. Make a wish. I took it, a yellow bright, wild, insignificant, and beloved by God, transforming for the sake of our desire into an ancient puff, bits of fuzzy manna descending upon the world. Make a wish, blow. Having my breath, what more could I wish for? All of my being rose to this pursuit, and I had the advantage of the sky with its ability to become, in the twinkling of an eye, everything. I searched the clouds for omens, answers. They seemed to be moving very fast, dome-shaped, delicate, connective tissue, the face of art in profile, the face of denial, blessed.